Your brain is a 3-pound energy hog running 24/7. It's 2% of your body weight, but burns 20% of your daily calories. Even when you're staring at a wall doing absolutely nothing, it guzzles fuel like a server farm that never shuts down. Brain nutrition isn't about superfoods or biohacking. It's about whether the physical machine running your thoughts is getting the raw materials it needs. Your brain has a constant power bill. Fuel, building blocks, and chemical helpers need to arrive on time, or performance starts to slip. It doesn't break, it underperforms. Focus shortens, mood flattens. Motivation stops being automatic and starts feeling like a negotiation. Most people call that mindset. It's usually just inputs. Your brain doesn't respond to affirmations or willpower. It responds to molecules, blood flow, and timing. When inputs are right, thinking feels effortless. When they're off, everything feels heavier. You're trying harder, not thinking better. The real problem is your brain adjusts. If the brain can't get what it needs, it lowers output. That shows up as burnout, laziness, or just who you are. But it isn't. It's a system running on fumes and calling it normal. Your brain has zero storage, no battery backup, no emergency tank. It runs on constant delivery like a city that needs power every second or the lights go out. That delivery is blood sugar, glucose, converted into usable energy inside brain cells. Stability matters more than amount. Big glucose spikes feel great for about 5 minutes, then the crash hits. Focus disappears. Irritation creeps in. Thinking turns sloppy. That's not a discipline problem, that's chemistry. When blood sugar rockets up, insulin spikes to pull it back down. When it drops too fast, your brain registers it as an emergency. And the brain hates emergencies. You feel that shortage as anxiety, cravings, and distraction. That's not you being weak. That's survival code that used to keep humans alive. Modern life turned that alarm into background noise. Snack all day and your brain never switches out of sugar-burning mode. Skip meals randomly and it panics. Either way, you're stuck bouncing between wired and foggy, never steady. The goal isn't more glucose or less glucose. It's predictable glucose. Because the foods that spike your energy fastest also create the hardest crash. Your brain is about 60% fat. Not as an insult, as a literal build material. Every neuron is wrapped in fat-based membranes that control what gets in, what stays out, and how fast signals move. When those membranes are built well, communication is fast and clean. When they're damaged or built from low-quality fats, signaling slows down. Reaction time drops. Mental stamina drops. Fats aren't padding, they're infrastructure. Different fats behave differently. Some keep membranes stable and flexible. Others make them rigid and fragile. Highly processed fats oxidize easily, meaning they break down into compounds the brain has to deal with before it can even use them. That shows up as earlier mental fatigue, lower stress tolerance, and a brain that feels on edge for no clear reason. Omega-3 fats, especially DHA, support membrane fluidity for high-speed signaling. The issue usually isn't zero omega-3, it's ratio. Too much inflammatory fat compared to stabilizing fat shifts the brain toward reactivity instead of clarity. And here's the part most people miss. Once the brain builds those membranes, it doesn't replace them quickly, so you're not thinking with what you ate yesterday. You're thinking with what you've been eating for months. Fuel sorted and structure covered. Now let's talk about wiring. This is where protein comes in. Your brain uses protein to build the communication system that lets brain cells actually talk to each other. Those parts are made from amino acids. Think of them as molecular Lego bricks. Each one has a specific job. Miss even one brick and the whole construction stalls. Your brain takes those amino acids and builds messengers called neurotransmitters. These messengers run everything: focus, mood, motivation, calmness. Dopamine gets you to start tasks. Serotonin keeps you steady. Norepinephrine keeps you alert. Every single one starts as an amino acid from protein. Low protein means fewer messengers. Fewer messengers means weaker signals across the board. When protein runs low, your brain doesn't collapse. It just slows down. Thoughts turn fuzzy. Emotions stick around longer than they should. Motivation feels like it's somewhere nearby, but you can't quite reach it. Here's why. The brain prioritizes survival over performance. It'll use protein to keep you awake and breathing before it bothers making you feel focused or motivated. That's why protein deficiency doesn't feel dramatic. It just feels dull. And because your brain adapts to whatever you give it, that dull version starts feeling normal. But it's not normal. It's just underbuilt wiring running on minimum spec. On top of fuel, fats, and protein sit the micronutrients. Vitamins and minerals. They don't power your brain. They tell your brain how to use power. Without them, fuel and protein just sit there like a phone plugged into a dead outlet. B vitamins help brain cells turn sugar into usable energy. Magnesium helps brain cells relax after firing so signals don't pile up. Iron moves oxygen so your brain doesn't feel tired for no reason. Zinc handles repairs. Iodine sets the brain's operating speed. You only need tiny amounts, which is exactly why people ignore them. Miss even one and the system still runs, just poorly. Most people aren't fully deficient. They're chronically low. Modern food delivers calories fast, but skips the fine details. Your stomach feels full. Your brain feels off. Micronutrient gaps don't break the system. They lower efficiency. Thinking takes more effort. Stress hangs around longer. Focus slips faster. And because this happens slowly, the brain adapts. That lower power version starts to feel like normal. Your gut isn't just digestion. It's a signaling system. It's lined with nerves that constantly send updates to your brain about energy availability, inflammation, and stress load. When the gut is stable, the brain gets stable inputs. When the gut is irritated, the brain shifts into a more defensive state. Inside your gut live trillions of bacteria. Some support you, some don't. The helpful ones break down fiber and produce compounds that reduce inflammation and support brain function. They also maintain the gut lining, a physical barrier that controls what enters your bloodstream. When that barrier is strong, nutrients pass through and waste stays out. When it's damaged, inflammatory compounds leak in, and gut issues don't always show up as stomach pain. They show up as anxiety, brain fog, and sudden mood drops because your brain interprets gut inflammation as a threat signal. Highly processed food, chronic stress, and poor sleep all shift gut bacteria in the wrong direction. The result is simple. Absorption drops, inflammation rises, and brain performance follows. Here's the trap. You can eat perfectly and still feel off if your gut can't absorb what you're giving it. The brain responds to delivery, not what's sitting in your stomach. Your brain takes damage every day, not from one bad meal or a late night, but from running the system harder and longer than it was designed for. That damage shows up in 3 predictable ways. First is inflammation. Inflammation is meant to turn on briefly, fix a problem, then shut off. When it doesn't, the brain stays in defense mode. Focus breaks easily. Starting tasks feels heavy. Patience runs thin. Simple decisions feel draining. That's not mindset. That's a brain stuck on high alert. Second is oxidation. Every time your brain makes energy, it creates waste, like exhaust from an engine. Antioxidants are supposed to clear that waste. When they're low, it builds up. Processing speed drops. You reread sentences. Words and names take longer to come back. Thinking still works, just slower than it should. Third is glycation. Excess sugar sticks to brain proteins and stiffens them. Stiff systems don't adapt well. Signals move slower. Timing slips. Reactions lag. Everything feels slightly out of sync. Your brain knows how to repair all of this, but repair only happens when the right signals are present. Most people keep those signals blocked all day, then wonder why their brain never quite resets. Layered over everything are hormones, the control signals that decide what your brain actually does with nutrition. You can eat perfectly and still feel off if these signals are loud. Insulin is one of the main ones. Every time you eat, insulin rises to move sugar into storage. When insulin stays high, the body prioritizes storing energy, not repairing damage. Brain cleanup slows down. Eat constantly and insulin never drops. Repair keeps getting delayed. Cortisol is the stress alarm. When it spikes, the brain assumes danger. Energy gets redirected toward survival, not thinking clearly. You feel wired but less sharp. Chronic stress keeps this alarm on even when nothing is actually wrong. Then there's dopamine, the reward signal. Modern food and constant stimulation push it too hard. Dopamine spikes tell the brain to chase more, not to stop. Hunger signals get ignored. Satisfaction fades fast. The brain keeps hunting the next hit. These hormones don't care how clean your food is. They respond to timing and intensity. When they're out of balance, even good nutrition can't do its job. This is where most people start, and that's the mistake. Supplements are finishing touches, not foundations. If the brain isn't getting steady fuel, enough protein, usable fats, and basic micronutrients from food, a supplement doesn't fix anything. It just floats on top of the problem. That's why supplements worked once and then stopped. The pill didn't change. The system did. When sleep is short, stress is high, and meals are inconsistent, the brain is busy putting out fires. A capsule can't compete with that, but when the basics are in place, supplements suddenly become noticeable. Same pill, different system. Supplements work best when there's a clear gap. Low magnesium shows up as tension and poor sleep. Low omega-3s show up as mental fatigue. Low B vitamins show up as low energy under pressure. Fill the gap and things improve. Take them without a gap and nothing happens. Supplements aren't useless, they're precise. They only work when they're used in the right spot, on top of a system that's already working. This is how the system actually stacks, and order matters. Consistency comes first. Regular meals and regular sleep give the brain patterns to work with. When inputs are predictable, the brain stops burning energy managing chaos and can focus on thinking clearly. Next is fuel stability. Protein, carbs, and fats decide whether energy arrives smoothly or in spikes and crashes. Stable fuel means stable focus. On top of that comes structure. Fats and protein form the membranes and messengers that let brain cells communicate cleanly. Better materials produce clearer signals. Then come micronutrients. They don't provide energy. They unlock the energy already there. Without them, fuel sits unused and systems run late. Supplements sit at the top. They fill specific gaps in a system that's already functioning. Use them earlier and they do very little. Use them here and they make a difference. Most people start at the top and work down. That's why nothing changes. The brain isn't broken. It responds to order. Skip a layer and the rest can't hold. Once the order is clear, the symptoms stop feeling random. Next, we move to the top of the pyramid, supplements, where they actually fit, which ones matter, which ones don't, and how to use them without guessing.